Hello, everyone, and welcome to another horrific review. All right, so finally getting around to some movies that have come out and I wanted to catch up on. So, tonight we are talking about The Substance. A fading celebrity takes a black market drug, a cell replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. Okay, so first thing out the door, this isn't your typical uh, bit of an artsy fartsy thing about it, but it's not your typical let's talk about feelings and stuff. It's psychological slash body horror. This isn't messing about. It's actually a surprising role for Demi Moore to be in, considering the fact she's basically a mainstream actress. This isn't the sort of movie. This is something you expect to see Nicolas Cage in, if I'm honest. If it was the genders, because it's very female centric, and it makes sense because it's about Hollywood, it's about the fashion industry, icons, beauty, all that kind of stuff. But Demi Moore is essentially, I think, is the best description. Is essentially decided to make a Nick Cage movie or be like a Nick Cage role. I tell you what, if Demi Moore, this is her direction of travel, let's do it. If she's going to be in just random bonkers movies just for fun, more power to her. I actually had a lot of fun with this. Now, it's over 2 hours long. It could have been definitely tied up a bit. We got the message of what's going on, and we're kind of there's no real surprises. You know where the movie's going. It starts off a certain way, everything's all hunky dory, and then it's going to go wrong and go wrong spectacularly. So to me, there's a lot could be cut out of this, but at the same time, it's fun. It uses hyper reality, so the scenes are over exaggerated. The camera work, I'm trying to think. It's similar to what they use for Breaking Bad, the sort of shots, but also God, what do you call it? Hardcore Henry, that type of stuff, it's out there. Fist of Fury, wasn't it? The short and Sin City, that sort of over the top, hyper, not so much violence because it's not a very violent movie. But there's a particular scene, you see it in the trailer, where Dennis Quaid's character Harvey sitting at the lunch, and it just sort of cuts out of it. But the scene where he's eating and stuff, and everything's really exaggerated, and noises are overpowering. It's using that sort of environment to tell a story, and to be honest, it works. It's the dialogue is limited in it. If that makes sense, they're sort of really short scenes, so you don't get massive exposition. This is a visual story. Hey, Chris. Says act like a normal human. Yeah, just you might have just jumped in there. It isn't a Cage movie. This is Demi Moore, but this is Demi Moore doing the equivalent of a Nick Cage movie, in my opinion, of just a random thing that should not work. And if it had been anyone else but her, it wouldn't have. If that makes sense. And like I said, if this is what she's going to start doing now, flipping more plays, honestly. She really puts herself out there. Like, I mean, not just physically, I mean, doing full nude and everything, but I mean, the physicality of her action as well. Because, like I said, this is body horror, and she's properly in a body horror movie. Like, she's not being a Hollywood diva. Like, she's getting down and dirty in this, and it's brilliant. So, it starts off, she is Elizabeth Sparkle, right? Yeah, they're doing that. She's one of those celebrities, like fitness instructor, or she's done movies and then she does fitness instructor, all that. Basically, it's the 80s. It's showing the whole 80s tropes, but they've turned them up to 11. And the whole intro scene is her, getting her Hollywood star in the Walk of Fame, and all getting lovely tended. And then as time goes by, people are walking over it, oh, you can see that person and that thing, and then just it starts cracking and gets neglected. It it is an allegory for the whole Hollywood thing, the shallowness, the hollowness of it, and also people that live. And you see it with particularly women models and that, they've got the world at their feet when they're like 20, 22, and they don't realize that that doesn't last forever. And they don't have a plan, i.e., they haven't built friends, family, that sort of long term longevity. So when the celebrity runs out, they got nothing left. And we're seeing this with Elizabeth's character. She's basically at the end of a rope. She's just got her final TV show spot cancelled. If that makes sense, because they want to replace her. TV's a scummy, shitty place anyway. But like I said, this it's just showing it, and it's turned up to 11. We're not being shown anything here that we don't already know. That environment is horrendous. And I honestly believe that people that get involved in it, yes, there's stupid amounts of money to make, etc., but they get trapped in the lifestyle. So whatever money they make has to go on the big mansion, the chauffeur-driven cars, blah blah blah, to keep their persona going, so that they get the money to maintain the lifestyle that they really, and there's no real exit plan for them. And that's when they get to a certain stage in their career or age, then they get bitter and twisted and see it today, but look at social media when they get to a certain age now and they want to remain relevant, that they lose the plot. And we've seen so much unhappiness. No, the Hollywood star really has dimmed, and I think due to social media and the fact that we can almost see these people and they're, when they have a bad day and they put a post out or whatever else, and it's not all carefully curated anymore, and the whole veneer has dropped off. And then you've got numpties like us, get on camera and we talk about things, and there's almost no real difference now, except they can get more reach still because they can pay for the advertising, etc. But there's more stories than not of just ordinary people that do this sort of stuff, do social media influencers and that, and then just take off. As much as there's still the corporate curated stuff, there's now more opportunity for some random person who wouldn't have had a shot in the old guard stepping up and taking over, and come the shining light. So doesn't really touch on social media. It's like I said, it's 80s themed. I don't know if it's meant to be, set in the 80s, but it's very 80s themed. It's still going to, like, network TV and TV show spots and all that kind of stuff, which is, irrelevant today. But it works for the setting, and I think it works for Elizabeth's character, because she's that sort of age, and it would make sense that she's getting that sort of peak, and then obviously as TV's becoming irrelevant, they're struggling to basically put bums in seats. Elizabeth then gets into a car accident, ends up in hospital, and one of the nurses says, "Oh, you're a good potential candidate," puts some gives her a coat, and there's something in her pocket, and it's a hard drive. And it's not even subtle, like the hard drive's about that size, says the substance, and there's a telephone number in the back, and it's a USB things, and it just plays a video. It's all very, once again, it's 80s theme, but then we've got modern technology, we've got flat screen TVs, we've got all that stuff. It's a different universe, like I said, it's hyper reality. It's just that wee bit out there from the norm for it not to be a drama. And that, I think it needed to be that. It needs to be that hyper reality, borderline, completely unrealistic fantasy setting for this to work. Because if they tried to do this as a gritty drama or something, you know, it'd be ridiculous. And it's the ridiculousness of it hammers home the theme of the entire movie, which is in the sort of entertainment industry, that sort of space, in the sort of vapid fashion, people chasing trends, that you're disposable property. That's just the way of it. We see it in this. You could hit it lucky with a trend and blow up or not. That's just the way of it. And even if you do hit a trend and blow up for a bit, there's no guarantee it'll last. But unlike a lot of these sort of Hollywood, well, you do see it with YouTubers too. You see the ones that get their heads filled for the absolute mush and they take their celebrity but too seriously, and then they crash and burn in the most horrendous ways. And this is what we're seeing here, except they've brought in a third party. So we've got this secret, lab or pharmaceutical thing. I'm gonna start off. We get a sort of theme because we see an egg, an actual just egg cracked on a table, and them injecting the stuff in it and it's splitting into two eggs. So they're showing you what's actually happening. It's sort of prepping you for the events. I'm going to try to avoid spoiling this because I really think you should check it out. It's a good movie. If you're prepared to put 2.25 hours nearly, I think it is nearly 2 hours and a quarter, like 2 hours 13 minutes or something. If you're prepared to put that time in and just disregard reality and take the movie for what it is, I think you're in for a bit of a wild ride. So faced with her irrelevance and obscurity, sorry, I'm gonna have to take paracetamol for go to bed. Winter's here, start getting the head colds and stuff. It's always fun. But faced with her own irrelevance, she gets desperate, and just as she had that car accident, she's in hospital getting checked out. She has a breakdown in the doctor's surgery. The doctor's like, "Oh, here's an emergency, skull, skull." She gets offered this lifeline. At first, she disregards it, but when she finds out her TV show's getting cancelled and they're hiring and they want somebody young, it's that young pretty. There's another thing as well. Dennis Quaid's character, Harvey, he is your typical sleazeball agent, executive producer, TV producer, but he dials it up. He's an unrealistic, bright suits, colors, everything he does is exaggerated. He's what is that? The Hunger Games. That presenter with like the orange face and stuff and the green hair and whatever. He's a bit like that, just not as in your face. Like I said, hyper reality dialed up. You can see it, but he's playing a caricature rather than a character. If that makes sense. He's more a point of view, a narrative device, as opposed to a protagonist or antagonist or part of the plot. He's basically there to, how would I put it? He's there to set the scene, and he's just basically the face of the shit that's going on, in the entertainment industry, and that's what he serves. So you don't really dislike him as a character, because he's not one. Like I said, he's a storytelling device. You appreciate him for being there because he sort of fills in the blanks, and he does it really well. So you sort of have to take his character with a pinch of salt and understand why he's there in the movie. He's not for or against Elizabeth or anything else. He's just, he's representing the whims and fancies of the entertainment industry and the audience that follows it. They're fickle as anything. That the mainstream audience and the trend chasers it's a new thing every week. And really, it shouldn't be taken personal because the people that are a part of it, the people that follow it, are empty. There's nothing there. You know yourself. You look at the ones that will spend hours on their phone just there's nothing there. That's You almost have to pity them. It's more Elizabeth's character and what led her to the place she's in. I mean, she's given this chance to make a younger, better version of herself. She ends up in desperation taking it. Now, it shows as well what headspace she's in, which is very important because, like I said, this is part body horror, but it's also psychological. The main antagonist and protagonist in here is Elizabeth, Demi Moore's character. She is her own best friend and her own worst enemy. And you can see that the life choice, everything's boiled down to her. And the fact that she's not happy is deeper than just physical looks. It's honestly, fair play to Demi Moore, like I said, for playing this, because this is not a complimentary character. And you would think, considering what she's been in and that and her status, this is a bit of a brave move because this isn't for the normal audience. This isn't for your casual viewer. If that makes sense. This isn't even for your casual horror fan. This is for sort of seasoned people that'll get it. And like this could just she could put a lot of people off like they're in the past, if that makes sense. So she really has taken a chance with us, and I think you can probably tell I'm impressed because to put herself out the way she put herself out in this movie, like it's not glamorous. So, like I said, there's nudity in it, quite a bit actually. But after like the first scene, any sense of titillation goes. It's a storytelling device and it's very useful. And then when it goes into full body horror, yeah, you put them thoughts out of your head because you're just like, oh god. And I don't want to go into details because I don't want to spoil it because you'll be shocked. And it was done so bloody well. Another thing of doing this is the use of practical and CGI. So we've got limited CGI in this, but there's mainly practical. Like you can see it. There's body suits, there's prosthetics, there's all sorts, and just that wee sliver of CGI to make it, happen. And oh my god, does it work? It's it's like like I said, old school 80s stuff that we've seen, but they've dialed it up a bit and they've used a bit of modern tricks to bring it to the fore. Do you think they're finally listening? Do you think they're finally twigging on with these sort of movies to go back to basics? I didn't get a budget for this movie. I should maybe have looked that up. Be interesting to see. In fact, I might do it while we're here. Be interesting to see how much this cost if I can get one. I mightn't have it out yet. And this stuff's normally Wikipedia's normally good. 17.5 million. 17.5 million. That is just over the budget of Godzilla minus one. Godzilla minus one was 11 million. This thing looks good, right? See, for that is micro budget in terms of Hollywood. If you think of the hundreds of millions that are put into certain movies and they look like absolute dog shit and they look cheap and nasty, this is not it. I think somebody's getting the memo, and as always, horror leads the way to sort of movies going back the way they were. I think this was an indie production as well because it did the film festival circus, so it's not a major studio. It was Blacksmith and something else. There aren't like big studios, so you've got that element to it. And like I said, if if Demi Moore wants to go and be be another Nick Cage, we need a bit more of that in the world, and fully support her because yeah, we see Elizabeth going to pick up this stuff. Now, the fact that she doesn't see any danger, the fact she gets a cryptic USB stick with a random ad, and then when she rings a phone, it's a yes, no, it's a creepy voice, and she's given like a location as if she's going for like a drug deal, illicit drug deal, and she gets a number 503, and then no, her only contact with this company, the substance, is this disembodied voice, and will not respond to her unless she calls herself 503. So she's not seen as a name. There's a bit where she goes to do the first pickup, and the door, like she's given a key card, it bleeps, and the door only opens part the way. And you'd actually think it's, how much are you going to base yourself for this? She has to crawl under the door. And I think it's part of the ritual. There's a very sort of ritualistic aspect to this. And it's not just taking the drug. There's a whole series of things I have to do. There's a whole series of rules. I'm not going to go into them because I don't want to spoil it, because, I mean, the whole plot revolves around the set of instructions she's given that you must follow. And sure enough, she carries forward, or else it would be a story, you know what I mean? If she didn't, if she just went, no, thank you, get on with her life, would have no story. So obviously she's going to go through with it. And we meet then Sue. Sue is produced, and I'm not going to, once again, this is bloody hard. I don't want to spoil it. uh, but there's enough hints in the trailer and the poster, etc., how Sue comes into being, and instantly it's an antagonistic relationship, and it's almost an allegory for self-loathing. I think that's the whole theme of this film, is self-loathing and where it can take you. Like I said, the superficial fads and stuff is fine. It's always going to be there. That's part of people. That's not what does you in, because you can be part of it or not. You can always step away. You can be in, if you've got something going for you that makes you popular, you can go in for a short time as long as you've got an exit plan. Where this stuff's dangerous, where people make it their entire lives, and then when it's gone, they don't know what to do. But that's not the fickle crowd fashion industry. That just, that'll toddle along whether you're in it or not. That's a you thing, if that makes sense. And this whole movie is very much an Elizabeth thing, and then a Sue thing. But Sue is, there's a statement that's in the rules which kind of explains this. And like I said, it's the antagonism is not between two entities, but one. And it just ramps up. There's a certain set of rules put in place. There's a certain ritual has to be taken part in. And if that's ever broken, that's where problems lie. Which, of course, it's a horror movie. They're going to get broken. And then we see the side effects. And then it just ramps up and ramps up and ramps up. One thing it does, the pace in this is brilliant. Like, it's over 2 hour long movie. You would think it would drag, and you would think that the danger of this is it peaks too early and then you've nowhere to go. They keep this thing going. They keep that tension going right up until the end, until the finale. And it's very cleverly done. It's good writing, in my opinion. It's good writing that does that. It's not the special effects, not the budget. 17 million, minuscule budget for a movie like this. Not even the actors. If they haven't got a good script or a good story, they can do their best, but it's not going to work. It has to be a combination. So the storytelling in this and the pacing is on point, because it needs to be to keep you engaged for the length of time this movie is. Yes, that might be. This isn't a normie movie. Okay, let's just get that out of it. It's not a normie movie. If you're a normie or you're a casual horror fan, you're going to find this a bit much. But even at that, just to keep people's attention for that long is really good. The way they've done this. And you know me, I have watched movies I've given up on or have really felt every minute that the thing's on screen because it's just bad storytelling and bad pacing and just you've no emotional connection. Like you're rooting for Elizabeth, you want her to do well, but you also see the self-destructive tendencies. You also want Sue to do well. It's not like Sue is the villain either. And this is where people might find it a bit, oh, what's going on here? There really is no clear antagonist or villain. It's not that sort of movie. This is an introspective movie. This is about the internal struggle of a person. This is about a person's self worth. And the only person that can give you self worth is you. No one can hand it to you. No one can take it away. You do that. We do that. It's all on us. That's a hard message to deliver because most people don't want to hear that. And we'll see a good bit of this playing out as well because what does Sue do? Does she choose a different path or does she play things different? No, she just plays, he just basically becomes Elizabeth, just a younger version, and goes through the same tropes and the same self destructive tendency. And that really comes together in the finale. And once again, down to the basic rules, they don't get followed and they go against them. And sure enough, chaos ensues. There's there is a bit of gore, and there's a lot of gore at the end, but it's not the gore that sets you on edge. If that makes sense, that's almost a relief. That's almost a I'm in a horror movie. Phew, okay, I know where I am. What really sets your teeth on edge in this movie is the hyper realism. I hope I'm using that term correctly to describe it. It's the only way I can think of. It's just reality's just taken up a notch enough to almost become unreality. That's what they're doing here, and they do it with the camera shots, the focus, the costumes. People wear exceptionally bright clothing. There's a cooking scene in this. There's a few, but there's one particular cooking scene in this where it really takes up the 11. You know what I mean? And that's more disturbing than the actual gore that's in this. And it's all the implications. It's all the realization of what this movie's about. And to me, that's more, it's better than jump scares. Jump scares are like, oh, okay, right, you got me over. It's movies like this I really enjoy. And it might seem strange, but because I've seen other movies attempt to do this and they fail miserably, and that's why I get annoyed. I've seen pretentious crap being put out, dressed up as movies like this. And you would think with the subject matter, this had the potential to be a pretentious piece of crap and just a preachy, horrible, blame, 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 blame sort of thing. That's the path this could have went down and it would have failed. The fact that this is more introspective and you have to think about you and your position in the world as an individual, that's not an easy thing to do. And that's why a lot of people shy away from it that don't want to do it. It's not a comfortable thing, but that's what this movie puts right in your face. That you can have all the trappings, the wealth, the fame, but if you haven't sorted your life out and if you don't have your own value, and more importantly, relationships, we it annoys me. There's a lot of horror commentators, and they all try to be the spooky. I need no one. I'm a creature of the night. I'm a lone shadow. Blah, all that kind of shit. And it's usually a facade because they're usually the loneliest people. You need your friends. You need your family. You need your relationships. You know what I mean? That's what makes us human. That's where a pack animal. Some of us are herd animals, but we're a social creature. You look at complex social creatures in the animal kingdom and you isolate one of those creatures and they don't do well, they don't live as long, they're not stimulated. We're that times 11 as a human because we've got this thing called an imagination, which can invent more horrors in your head than can ever be presented to you. That's what sets us apart. And this movie really does hammer home about that. If you don't have that sort of stuff, and if everything you do is fake, if everything you do is polished and a veneer and just has no substance to it, you're not going to have any substance to your life. It's a deep one. It's dressed up. Like I said, there's a lot of ridiculous scenes in this, but they're necessary. And it's dressed up as a goofy body horror in some parts. But then again, it's necessary. A lot of subtext in this. It's great. I love picking out subtext and meaning. And there'll be stuff that I'll see and someone else will maybe pick up something different due to their life experience, and that's cool. That's why subtext is better than a preachy message, because a preachy message is somebody telling you what you should think, where a movie like this doesn't do that. It's going, here's a situation, here's a scenario, interpret it as you will, and take what meaning out of it what you will. There's a broad theme, yes, but this movie gets too personal for that and has you thinking. So, all in all, really enjoy it. Excuse me. One thing about it is the phone, that there's that phone number becomes really important, because both Elizabeth and Sue ring the number at random times, and it's always the same voice answers, and it's sort of, say deadpan, but I would say more ethereal, as if they're not speaking to a human, if that makes sense. Because while on the surface, as a pharmaceutical, product, with the other stuff almost ritualistic, there's a hint of magic about it too. It's almost a hint of you're dealing with supernatural forces. It's very subtle, but it's there. And if you pick up on that as well, it just gives this movie a whole other level. It's not your standard, oh, here's, once again, is the pharmaceutical company, and I'll use the term company in inverted commas, are they the villains? Or are they just providing something? You know, it's it's an ambiguous stand. Are they a pharmaceutical? Like, is this magic? That it does come up. You can't watch this movie, especially the telephone scenes, and not think that you're dealing with something otherworldly. You can't. It's there, and it's subtly woven in the whole plot. Anyway, things play out as they play out. Like I said, it all escalates to the finale, and it goes to a final confrontation, and it pretty much up to that point goes how you would expect it. And there's a certain part of the plot, once again, goes against the rules, sort of coming, but the outcome is off the charts. It's just off the charts. And so the movie plays out, it goes where it goes, and it finishes where it finishes. And fade to black, end the movie. I'm not going to go any more detail because I don't want to spoil it. Like I said, it's only new out. It's a good bloody movie, and it's worth a watch. Just be prepared. Like I said, you need to pay attention, and you need to invest the time. You need to be understanding that you're spending over 2 hours watching a movie. But there you go. There's that. Let me know what you think if you've watched it. I think there's a couple of people who've done reviews so far, so be interesting to see your thoughts. But anyway, let me know in the chat, etc., etc. And until next time, keep updated with the channel, do the typical things, and remember to keep it creepy, keep it horrific.